A little off day for the Toronto Blue Jays. Plus, we have a series to preview, and there might be new information on a possible Bo Bichette contract.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Braden Iwasko. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Iwasko. Carter First, too, as well. On our main Twitter, Locked On Jays. As well, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. Plus, if you're new here to YouTube or you're listening anywhere else, head over to the YouTube page, hit the subscribe button. Helps us out a ton. It's free. You might as well do it. You get your podcasts, your videos, your shorts, your live streams, the whole ordeal. Lot to get into today. I know it's a little off-day episode. It's a Friday. It's Good Friday. Everybody's chilling, having a good time. Maybe you're eating a little Easter dinner. Maybe you're not. That's fine, too. We're not one to judge here. Either way. We're going to have some fun. Today's going to be a little bit of a chiller episode. We got some big stuff to get into. Don't get me wrong. We got news on a possible Bo Bichette contract. We're going to go over sort of how each player is playing this season, not specifically, but more as a whole, and which guys are contributing, which guys haven't been contributing, who to keep an eye out for. Plus, of course, as always, stick around for segment 3 where we do the series preview. We dive in depth, see who the Blue Jays are playing, who's pitching, who's not pitching. We'll dive into it all. Big episode today. Carter, off day, Good Friday. We were out at a social, so congratulations, Tristan Latterud and Lauren. It was a blast. We had a great time. We want to thank them for putting on a great event, and they blessed us with 2 socials with Harry and Sid, and of course Tristan and Lauren in 6 days. So the boys are hurting right now, but it was a great time. How are you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, and we just had a baseball tryout as well that we got brought back to the high school. We had to shake off a lot of the rest, obviously. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. Obviously, being involved in the game is why we do this podcast. We love baseball, whether that's Blue Jays baseball, whether that's even now. Obviously, we're out of our primes. We're playing in our extra leagues, like we call it beer league, obviously, but it's recreational, slow pitch, or if it's helping the community, helping our high school teams that we played from. We always want to keep involved in the sport. So I'm feeling good. It's just obviously nice to get around and chuck the ball around. We did that last weekend too, for the first time since, for me, it was like 10 months since I've thrown a baseball, an actual baseball. I think it was more like 3 years. So it's always nice knock that rust off and kind of get back out there, especially with things warming up in Manitoba, where we're from. But some stuff that we want to get into, some Blue Jay stuff. Obviously, it's not all about us, unfortunately, as much as we would talk about us this entire podcast, but we got some Blue Jay stuff to come and talk about as well. So we got some Bo Bichette news again around the horizon. This was expected, obviously, after the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. stuff. As soon as Vladdy signs his contract, kind of like a 1A, 1B thing. We still want to sign, obviously, both players, but the priority was obviously with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now that Bo Bichette is one of the main targets of the Toronto Blue Jays team, probably like the main focus now of the Toronto Blue Jays future. Some contract stuff is coming out with Bo Bichette. I'll throw it back over to you to start from here.
Yeah, so obviously, like Carter said, this was something that obviously I think we all knew was coming eventually. It's just we were wondering in what capacity, right? We have to have the conversation on how much is he worth, right? And so an article did come out ranking 2025 free agents. MLB Trade Rumors, Steve Adams projected that Bichette would get a $200+ million contract if the season went well, and a minimum of $140 million, even if he had just an average year offensively. So a bunch of stuff is coming out. If Bichette's early positive signs at the plate ultimately yield a rebound to his prior form, that age and production from a shortstop capable middle infielder will likely push him north of $200 million. That's what Adams said as well. So some interesting stuff there, Carter, to say the least. And actually, you sent me that article. I believe it was yesterday, and it was something I was just reading the morning of as that came out. And I don't think that shocks either of us. Maybe the number does a little bit, but that there are talks in the work, or that there will be. The Blue Jays, Ross Atkins has already come out and said that they're very willing and hoping to get a deal done with Bo Bichette. So a lot at play right now and a lot at stake. The first thing I want to ask you is, I guess before we talk about free agency and what money you can get in free agency, blah, 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 does he even hit free agency? I think is the big question we have to ask ourselves right now.
Yeah, with Bo Bichette, now that he is the main focus of this franchise, you don't have the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. contract extension looming over you. You have, again, some other things you have to worry about, like Chris Bassitt's a free agent. But again, what's more important to the franchise right now, 36-year-old Chris Bassitt or 27-year-old Bo Bichette going into their contract years? I think that one is pretty obvious. The way things have gone with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the narrative that we always saw, especially with Vladdy, even like the media, I think, with more so with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., it was always the sentiment was he's going to stay with Toronto. He's going to re-sign with Toronto. You got these American insiders, which is always going to happen, saying that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to leave. They would have signed him already, blah, 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 blah. Again, it's hard not to believe those things when they do come out, when you're seeing them consistently. But when there's these contract negotiations, we're going to see a lot of things going well for Bo Bichette. And we're probably going to see a lot of articles come out that say Bo Bichette has zero chance of signing with the Toronto Blue Jays. But when it comes to these scenarios, and when it came to that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. scenario, what did Vladimir Guerrero Jr. always want to say? He said he wanted to stay in Canada. He loved the city of Toronto. He wanted to play for the Toronto Blue Jays. What has Bo Bichette said? Bo Bichette has said he wants to remain with the same franchise his entire career. He says he wants to play with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He wants to win championships with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Well, if you didn't realize, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to be here for the next 14 years. So how is he going to win a championship with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. if it's not with the Toronto Blue Jays? So everything that Bo Bichette has said, again, there has been some sentiment with the friends saying that, oh, Bo Bichette is as good as gone. Again, how much are you taking that with validity? It's a rumored quote from a friend. So when I look at this stuff, especially after this Vladimir Guerrero Jr. stuff, I'm looking at what the player has said. Why would the player go out and say, hey, like, I want to stay in Toronto. I want to play with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. just to lie to the fan base and leave in that free agency? I think maybe that's the scenario if he has to be here for another 4 years. But now that it's only 1 year left, why would he continue to keep saying this stuff and continue to kind of feed the egos of Toronto Blue Jays fans if he didn't actually have at least some sort of interest in staying in Toronto long term?
Carter, I said this, I don't know when it was, maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now. I think Bo Bichette is a Toronto Blue Jay before June. I am fully on board with all the statements that we've heard from not only the front office now post Vlad deal, but from Bo Bichette himself, was that they both want to keep Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette together. And Bo Bichette, like you said, wants to stay with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., wants to stay with Toronto. So I think a deal is done before June. I am going to put that out there. I don't care. I know there's people going to say, oh, well, do you even want Bo Bichette back? Because there was that narrative forever. And I was always on board with, you're not going to find a replacement for Bo Bichette in free agency. That is not going to happen. You have two players that want to be here, in Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette. You have Anthony Santander, who is a prolific power bat in Toronto. This is the team and the time, I think, more than ever, to now build around this group. So if you have, I think you do whatever you got to do to keep Bo Bichette. And you're not going to be paying him $500 million. You're not going to be paying him $300 million. But if you can get Bo Bichette for $150 million, $165, $70 million, you sign that contract immediately. Because I think Bo Bichette, just like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., is going to have a great year. And there are going to be teams chomping at the bit for Bo Bichette. But I fully believe, I don't think it's going to get there. So, and you can slander me all you want in the comment section. I fully believe Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette will be Toronto Blue Jays for, maybe Bo doesn't sign for as long. So I was going to say 10 years. It might not be that. It might be more of an 8-year is what I could see.
Yeah, I would say that's the Bo Bichette signing before June is definitely a hot take. I would love it. I mean, I would love for you to be right on this one. With this Bo Bichette stuff, the biggest difference that I've seen with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette is just the year that they're coming off of. Bo Bichette, I've talked about this so many times on the podcast, coming off his worst career season in the MLB. Players, if they're negotiating their livelihoods, if they're negotiating the biggest contract Bo Bichette is ever going to sign in his lifetime, he's not going to negotiate that coming off of a down year. So the thing is clearly the Blue Jays value Bo Bichette, but how much do they value Bo Bichette? And you had that MLB Trade Rumors article that said if he comes out and has an average season, probably around 140, 150 million. If he has a Bo Bichette caliber season, it's around 200 million. So the biggest thing for me is that how do the Toronto Blue Jays view Bo Bichette, and how does Bo Bichette view Bo Bichette? I think is the biggest thing. He's going to want to be paid how he's played throughout 2021, 2022. But a lot of that's going to have to see and how this season does play out. So I still think there is some uncertainty there, just with like the logistics. Because if Bo Bichette does have a very good year, like we just said, he gets another $50 million in a contract. But if he has an average year, then he gets $50 million less or so. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less, whatever. There is going to be a big value that if he has an average season. So I think there's just too much uncertainty up in the air to have Bo Bichette sign early on. I see how this plays out. I think you see how this plays out too. Bo Bichette's going to end up having a very good season. They're probably going to have to end up paying him over $200 million. So I get where you're coming from. Why not, get ahead of that ball game if you can? But I think with Bo Bichette, especially from his party, there's going to be a little bit of a slower process because I think he knows that he is going to get more and more money as the season does progress.
See, this, and I agree with that statement, but I disagree with the premise. Nobody in their right mind believes that the Bo Bichette we saw last season is the Bo Bichette we are going to see for the rest of his career. The Bo Bichette we saw the 2 years, 3 years prior plus this season, that's the Bo Bichette we're going to expect. And I think everybody in their right mind, unless you are, I was going to say something else, but out of your mind, I'll say, understand that this is the Bo Bichette you're getting. And I think his team, his people know that, he knows that, and this Blue Jays organization knows that. And I think every other organization in the MLB knows that. So I don't think that this is a gambling piece here. I don't think that this is, if Bo Bichette needs to have a unbelievable season for him to get this. And that's why Bo Bichette should wait. No. Everyone in the world knows what kind of player Bo Bichette is. After an injury-plagued year, he doesn't have a great season. The whole Toronto Blue Jays team didn't have a great season. That is not who you're signing. And nobody is going to try to use that against him because he can say, hey, I led the league in hits twice. And I'm probably going to do it again. I don't think this is a gambling piece whatsoever because I think everybody knows how good Bo Bichette is. I don't think it's a question mark. I think Bo Bichette is less of a question mark than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a question mark. I think Bo Bichette is, if you want to talk about consistency, way more consistent than Vlad is. Vlad's had down spouts. Bo Bichette has been exceptional all but 1 year, and it was because it was an injury-plagued year. There has been other great players, Hall of Fame players, that have had injury troubles and had a down season. But now we're going to see him on the comeback. I don't know. I just think it's wild to think that anybody has to see an unbelievable season from Bo Bichette. No, you just need Bo Bichette to be Bo Bichette. And I think that's what we've gotten already this year, Carter.
I'm going to rephrase kind of what I said there. It's because with Bo Bichette, I think the Blue Jays know Bo Bichette is a very good baseball player. Bo Bichette knows he's a very good baseball player. But the MLB is a business. The Blue Jays are a business. They're not going to give Bo Bichette a whole lot more money just because, we know Bo Bichette can be better in the future. They're going to try to get him as cheap as possible. And if you're negotiating a contract, you're probably going to refer to the year before where Bo Bichette did not have a very good season. You could use that as a little bit of leverage. Hey, there's some uncertainty here. We still obviously believe Bo Bichette's a good player. We're offering him a contract. Obviously, there is interest in both sides. You're not going to sign a player that you don't think is going to turn into a good baseball player. But at the end of the day, it is a business. The Blue Jays can, sign Bo Bichette for $20 million less. They're going to sign Bo Bichette for $20 million less. And they're going to have to use some of his shortcomings as leverage. Maybe they'll use a little bit of the defense. I don't think they'll harp on that too much. They'll say, hey, Bo Bichette's not this, prolific defender. They're going to that's just part of the negotiation process. Is Bo Bichette's going to say that he's the best player to ever exist in baseball? And the Toronto Blue Jays are probably going to try to find some of these shortcomings, find out some of the things that he's not as good as doing to try to lower that contract value. So I think both parties know how good Bo Bichette is, but at the end of the day, it's a business and money does all the talking. Bo Bichette's going to want as much money as possible, and the Toronto Blue Jays are going to want to sign Bo Bichette for as little as possible.
Sure, that's fair. And when you said it like that, I understand that. I just think when you're looking at two contracts of what could Vlad make, it could be anywhere from $450 million to $650 million, or between $200 million and $150 million. I think there are a lot less question marks around the Bo Bichette situation. I think you offer him 165, sort of splitting the difference right now, and you say, hey, you're going to be able to play with Vlad for the rest of your career, and hopefully, and we're going to build around you two and make this a championship team. I don't know. I think he signs. And again, this goes back to me 100% believing that before June he is a lifelong Toronto Blue Jay. So, and yeah, people can argue that if they want, but when that happens, I want everybody to come back to this podcast and say, oh, Brandon Wasco was right. He knows something or two about the contract situation.
Yeah, if that does happen, obviously we will end up giving you your flowers. But last thing I want to go over with this Bo Bichette contract, and you kind of threw out some numbers. You think, what did you say? Would you say it was 160? Is that what you wanted?
165.
165. Sorry. Okay. So for me, when I'm looking at Bo Bichette, and I do anticipate him to have a very good season, and we know with most major league, or we know with most athletes that a lot of the time they are trying to get a little bit more than their counterparts. With this Bo Bichette situation, Willy Adames just signed a contract, and he signed a 7-year, $182 million contract, $26 million AAV. If Bo Bichette has the typical Bo Bichette season, I'm going to assume he's going to want more money than Willy Adames. I'm assuming I like the 7 to 8 year range. I don't think it exceeds 10. I don't think it exceeds 8 whatsoever. I think we're more likely to go farther down the line than we are farther up the line and above 8 years. Like I think it's more likely to get 5 than 10. But with Bo Bichette here, I'm going to base it off the Willy Adames contract. No, Willy Adames, I think he hit 30 home runs last year. You're probably not going to get that from Bo Bichette. But the way that things are going, the way business works in the MLB, I think Bo Bichette is going to want, even though if it is $1 million more than a $182 million contract, for me, if Bo Bichette has the season that I think he's going to have, I think he is going to get a 7-year contract, probably between the $185 and $200 million value.
Yeah, and that's fair. And for me, that's what I said the Blue Jays should, like the first offer that goes out to Bo Bichette, that's probably what it should be, is the 165. So I agree with you. I think, again, it's all about precedent. And we talked about that in length over, what was it, the end of last season and all throughout the offseason.
Yeah, I was wrong about that. I still think it's so dumb, though, how that Juan Soto contract was done. I couldn't fathom it actually happening. $765 million for anyone, unless it's a doctor, a surgeon. It just should not happen.
No, I agree with you. That's insane to me too. But that's what's happening. And so, and your point was exactly right. He's probably going to want more, and it's a year later, so he's going to want, whatever. So I agree with you. I think that's a pretty solid range of where you're going to see the Bo Bichette contract at. And I think this Toronto Blue Jays front office is going to pull the trigger. In saying that, Carter, we have been yapping, as we always do, taking up everybody's time, and we still have a lot more to talk about, right? We got to talk about the season so far, what this team has been able to do. Plus, we have to save a decent amount of time for a series preview because we got to get into this as well. We'll take a break. We'll be right back with more. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. One of their best things is finding the right talent. If you need help with marketing campaigns, Upwork can connect you with freelance experts who deliver incredible results. They have fast and easy hiring. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, with multiple qualified candidates to choose from. They also are very cost-effective growth. That's one thing they really pride themselves on. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale the business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. So, my guy, listen, we don't got a ton of time. We want to hit the series preview with enough time to really dive into it and not take, people are busy. It's the Friday of Easter weekend, everybody's doing their thing. Good Friday. But let's talk about some of the standouts and maybe some of the lowlights of the season as well so far. I mean, again, only a few games in, a lot of season left to go. But anytime you have an off day, it gives you a little bit of time for reflection. So, Carter, give me some guys just off the top of your list that are like, hey, these are the standouts so far this season, or the surprises maybe.
Yeah, I'll get into the standouts. You got me fired up about that Juan Soto Shohei Ohtani thing. I'm just can't stop thinking about it right now. It's so annoying. But anyway, into the standouts for the Toronto Blue Jays. This is a weird one to start with. I did not think I was going to start with this guy, but we have nonstop been hearing about him, especially over the last 10 days. And it's Myles Straw. I mean, just an absolute beauty right now. And there's the argument, is Myles Straw going to keep up the production? Is Myles Straw going to hit 375 the entire year? No, probably not. Absolutely not. I'll say right now he's not going to do that. But the whole argument at the bottom of the order is that can they keep up this production throughout this entire season? And the argument is it doesn't just have to be Myles Straw. It could be Alan Roden doing it. It could be Will Wagner. It can be Tyler Heidemann, who, again, long-term, probably don't expect that happening. But it doesn't matter who it is. Ernie Clement, David Schneider. as long as you have one or two of these guys firing at a time, you can just kind of cycle these guys in. Miles Straw right now is that guy who is hot going into that last game of the Atlanta Braves series, was on an 8-game hit streak. Never would have thought Miles Straw would have been on a 2-game hit streak in the major leagues going into this season. Obviously ended that streak against the Braves, but then got on base and a guy that's stealing bases. And that's a thing that we haven't seen really with this Blue Jays team in the past. Now we have Andrus Gimenez stealing bases. We have Miles Straw stealing bases. And we see firsthand how it is helping the Toronto Blue Jays. Miles Straw gets walked. He steals second base. Bo Bichette gets a single. And there you go. You have manufactured a run right there. The old Toronto Blue Jays would have had to get 3 hits to drive in that run. So just the different brand of baseball and the bottom of the order carrying this baseball. So this is a Miles Straw kind of standout award, obviously, because of what he's doing, playing unbelievable defense in the Daulton Varsho absence and just continuing to bolster that order. But I just wanted to give a shout out to the entire bottom of the order for what they have done earlier on the season.
No, that's totally fair. I mean, there's a lot of guys you can go over. You know, you can throw Alan Roden in there, who I'm sure we've talked about a ton actually yesterday. So I'm not going to dive too deep into Alan Roden because over the past couple days, it's been the Alan Roden show. You could call this Locked On Alan Roden for all I care, because that guy has been electric as well. But Carter, another guy I have to go into and give his props because, man, we didn't this entire offseason. That's George Springer, who has been exceptional. 16 games played, hitting a 375 with an on-base of 436, slugging a 604, and an OPS of 1,040. George Springer, he's just done everything I've asked and more. Way more than I've asked. I'm not going to downplay. He's also got 2 bags, Carter. Like, I like to see that. I want to see George Springer. He's got the speed once in a while to break free. Let him break free. Let these guys run. I love it, dude. I'm so pumped about George Springer because I don't know if there was a person more down on George Springer on this entire planet Earth than me and you. So to see him succeed and have success, man, it just brings joy to me because when he's playing well, Carter, he's the guy that's so fun to watch.
Yeah, who would have thought 35-year-old George Springer was going to be the one carrying the Blue Jays offense early on in the season? I'll throw Bo Bichette in there as well. He's not 35, but he was helping the top of the lineup early on in the season. Yeah, he's been absolutely unbelievable. The only issue I have with Springer now is you have that wrist injury. Is that going to kind of put out the flame a little bit that he had earlier on in the season? We haven't really seen George Springer. We saw him pinch hit, I guess, in the 3rd game of that Braves series. But is the fire going to be kind of put out like we saw with Andrus Gimenez? Unfortunately, at the start of the season, he was very hot. Has not had a very good stretch, but I'm going to remain on the positives here. If you don't mind, I'm going to kind of ramble off a couple of them here.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, we don't get to
this one I'm just going to throw out there because we talked about this guy a lot in the last episode. It's Chris Bassitt. I mean, best ERA in the major leagues. Like, that's all you really got to say. It's been absolutely ridiculous. 31 strikeouts. Not really the Chris Bassitt prototypical like stat line you'd see with 31 strikeouts. I think it's through like 22, 23 innings. So very good start to the year from Chris Bassitt. The other one I wanted to go into is Kevin Gausman, man. Kevin Gausman is returning to ace form, and this completely drives up this team's ceiling so effectively, especially when you start thinking about playoff scenarios. If you have a guy that can go out there any given day and get 10, 15, 20 whiffs, get 8 to 10 strikeouts, put the team on your back and drive you deep into ball games, that is going to be Kevin Gausman. And the biggest difference between this year, last year, and everything is the fastball. The fastball velocity is back, and you absolutely love to see it. Kevin Gausman's sitting like 95, 96 with his fastball, and that helps him out so much. Hitters are so far behind that fastball. They see the splitter, they have to speed up their swing, and then the splitter's in the dirt, and they've already started their swing, and that's a strikeout for Kevin Gausman. So Kevin Gausman and him being back to that ace form, hopefully going to receive some Cy Young votes once again, is going to be so integral to this team, especially if they can make it to the playoffs.
Totally, dude. Yeah, you know what? The whole pitching staff, I mean, you really got to tip your hat to them. Outside of the, Richard Lovelady and early Jacob Barnes, I mean, you really got to be thrilled with the entire staff. So hat tips to them. Carter, I want to go in just to some team statistics here to show you how good this team has been over the first bunch of games. So I want to go to the pitching first. They are tied for 7th in runs allowed, they're 6th in hits allowed, 6th in batting average against, 7th in ERA, 2nd in WHIP, 13th in Ks per 9. They do give up their fair share of long balls. They are tied for 25th in the league. So, I mean, that is what it is. But then, Carter, even the offense, I mean, the hits, they're tied for 5th in the league. Average, they're tied for 4th. On base percentage, they're 7th. Like, this team just, I look back to last season, and I'm not in one point in last year did this team have this kind of success and have this many people excited about this organization again. And I'm just so thrilled to look at these stats, to look at the players and how they're playing, to watch the games and really just be excited to be a Blue Jays fan again, man. It is, and again, it sounds a little like corny, but it really is just it lights the baseball fire in me again. Like I want to watch. We're going out and like you talked about, we just coached the tryout there, and it was a blast. I mean, I was out in the yard with my brother and we were chucking the ball around, right? Like it's that kind of stuff that watching your favorite team play great, really good baseball brings back to you a little bit.
See, and we're always going to get the negativity of, oh, is Chris Bassitt going to have a 7.7 ERA the entire season? Is Kevin Gausman going to continue this success? It's about if Francis going to be able to take every single no-hit bid into the 5th inning. The thing is, we talk about that. We talk about how good the pitching is. And yes, there probably is going to be some negative regression. But when we talk about some of the negatives on that team that could have some positive aggression, we're already starting to see that early on. And that's with some of the power hitters in this lineup. And that is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and that is Anthony Santander. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the 3rd game of the series, obviously hitting his first home run of the year. He had quite the reaction after that. Can't say it on the podcast, but he was definitely fired up. And he realized that it has been a little bit of a time since Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has hit a home run. But one thing with this is that when we remember Vladimir Guerrero Jr. from last season, he did not really kind of catch fire until he cut his hair. And he cut his hair, I believe that was at the end of May. I do have some stats here to kind of go over how Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was early on the season. Throughout April of 2024, he had a 208 average with a 296 on base, a 375 slugging for a 671 OPS in May, 207 average, 293 on base, a 415 slugging for a 708 OPS. Then after that, when we get to the OPSs, we got like a 957, we got a 987. We have the home runs coming, we have the doubles. That's really when Vladimir Guerrero Jr. activated, was in the month of June. And hopefully it doesn't take 2 months for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to activate. It looks like the at-bats look unbelievable right now. You look at his baseball savant, he's hitting the ball hard. That is one of the biggest things you got to see with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. As long as he's hitting the ball hard, things are going to go well. And then the other guy is Anthony Santander. Obviously, we finally got that taste of what it's like to get some Anthony Santander home runs. He has been very good recently, but there's another guy that has been known to not start that quickly, and it kind of takes a little bit of a while to get this guy going. Last year, he had 2 home runs in April. That's where we're at right now with Anthony Santander. Hopefully, he can get a little bit more, obviously, than those 2 home runs. But then at 5 in May, again, not exactly ideal. But then you have 13 in the month of June. You had 9 in the month of July. You had 8 in the month of August, and then 5 in the month of September. We both said we don't expect Anthony Santander to hit 44 home runs this year, but you got to expect he's going to land somewhere between 30 and 35. A lot of those home runs can come in the middle of the season. That's going to be massive for this baseball team. And the pitching doesn't have to be this top-notch, top 3 rotation in all of baseball. If you get Anthony Santander starting to hit home runs, you get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. starting to drive the ball in the gaps, starting to hit home runs as well. That's the thing. The pitching can go down a little bit if you're going to get a little bit of a rise from the offense.
Yeah, man. This team, man, I'm just excited for it. And it's been a fun year so far. I really can't wait. Honestly, when Santander hits a home run, it's like nothing to him. Like I think he hit so many of them last year that he's hitting them this year, and he's just like, bang, gone. Okay, let's trot the bases.
I also like what he does after he hits a home run. Like he hit that home run in this last series against the Braves. He admired that thing for like 3 seconds. He's like looking at it, he's like, yeah, I got that one. That thing's out of here. And it's so fun to watch a team hit home runs. But that is the only negative thing that you could talk about about the Toronto Blue Jays right now. Is they've given up a ton of home runs. Again, it's not going to hurt you that much when you give up with like Kevin Gausman. That start, he gave up 2 solo shots, and then you had another one later on in the game. It's not going to hurt you that much when there's solo shots. But that's going to be the biggest thing right now. As you said, the team is 5th in hits. The team is like 7th in on base. But we know how much power matters. We talked about how much power mattered in the playoffs. The Dodgers hitting a lot of home runs, who ended up winning the World Series. So a team needs to hit home runs, and that might be a little bit of a problem down the stretch. It's like, Vladdy's going to hit home runs. Santander's going to hit home runs. But if they go through a dry spell, can you rely on Gimenez? Can you rely on Daulton Varsho? Can you rely on George Springer? And that is going to be one of the biggest questions that we have throughout this entire season. And that's why the trade deadline is going to be very interesting. I would love to see what this team is going to do if they could continue on this path and be in a good spot, be in a competitive spot, whether it's, it could be 2nd or 3rd in the AL East. As long as there are a few games above 500, I would love to see this team out of power bat and really spend at this trade deadline.
Yeah, me too, man. And there's a couple names I'm already starting to circle, and guys I had circled from last year that, if this team did do well, who would be possibly a good addition. But we are a long, long, long way away from that, and who knows what else is going to happen. This season could go down the drain, but it also could be awesome. So again, let's stay on the positivity for right now, as this team is having success. Again, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back with the series preview right after this. So make sure you guys stick around so you guys are well informed on what's about to come over the weekend.
Today's episode is sponsored by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for the skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the most reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you'll need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so they always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That is SH5 for 5% off your first order, and that is at supplyhouse.com.
Oh, it's time. A series that I feel like is, for Blue Jays fans, a little bit marked on the calendar. The Toronto Blue Jays and the Seattle Mariners. Here we go. Let's rock. Carter, I'm not sure if you have these starters pulled up. I'm missing the starters for Friday. I do have Gilbert and Berrios on Saturday, and then Castillo and Lucas on the Sunday. Do you have the Friday starters?
I don't right now. I think
okay,
this
I'll pull him up.
would be the George Kirby start that I've obviously not going to be ready right now.
Yeah.
He's still in the IL, so it's going to be one of those guys that they're either it might be a bullpen day, might be one of those starters that you don't really know a lot about. So it shouldn't be a very good pitching matchup, at least for the Seattle Mariners in this start. When we talk about the Seattle Mariners, the biggest thing that you're going to talk about is their pitching. They have one of the best rotations in all of baseball. Logan Gilbert when George Kirby is healthy. Bryce Miller's there. Brian Wu. And we didn't even talk about Luis Castillo, obviously, at the top of that rotation. So a very good rotation in Seattle. Luckily, right now, we're playing at the Rogers Center. So, the ball's going to fly a little bit more. I think that does bode in the Toronto Blue Jays' favor. So an important series, obviously, against the Seattle Mariners. I hate playing the Mariners, especially when it is in Seattle. So I am glad that this is in Toronto, obviously because of the 2022 stuff that happened that I'm not going to talk about anymore on this podcast. But hopefully just continue on the momentum. I think you got to win that first game. You got to take advantage of that good pitching matchup. Logan Gilbert is so good. I think they're really going to struggle in that game just because Logan Gilbert is that dude. I don't think it's going to be like the Blue Jays just can't hit. It's just Logan Gilbert's going to have unbelievable stuff. One of the best pitchers in all of baseball. So what are your expectations? You're hoping that the Toronto Blue Jays, obviously we are hoping the Toronto Blue Jays can continue on their momentum and get another series win. But is that realistic against the Seattle Mariners team?
Carter, I am going with a series sweep.
Wow.
For the Toronto Blue Jays. I think that I don't have any faith in the Seattle Mariners offense. And with the way that the Toronto Blue Jays have been playing, hopefully continuing on a hot streak, plus a day off before this series, and a little bit, it's TBD for that starter right now, even on MLB.com. So I'm here. I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm feeling good. I'm going full on Toronto Blue Jays sweep over the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, obviously I love it. And you were optimistic last series. It worked out pretty well. I love winning a series, especially when you're in the last two games of the series. I'm going to be optimistic. I'm not going to be that optimistic. Like I said, Logan Gilbert scares me a lot. I think they're going to lose that game. But with the way the Toronto Blue Jays are playing, they're at the Rogers Center. They have the home field advantage there. The Easton Lucas matchup, again, it's going to be interesting to see how he can bounce back against the Seattle Mariners. But I've got to be optimistic. I've got to, roll with the boys right now because the boys are rolling. I got a 2-1 series win against the Seattle Mariners to elevate this team to 4 games above 500 with the gauntlet of a schedule that they still do have in April. If this team can continue on just in this trajectory and somehow get to like 6-7 games above 500, that is really, obviously, you're reaching for the stars at that time. But if you can get through this stretch and be that good of a baseball team, what's stopping this team from winning 95, 100 games? I know that is a wild thing to say on the podcast right now, but that's kind of the way things are going right now within Toronto Blue Jays land. If your pitching is going to continue to play this well, which is a big ask, you got to expect there is going to be some regression. I think we are kind of at the peak right now, so we don't want to get too high. But at the end of the day, a lot of things are going well for the Toronto Blue Jays, especially if they can start getting some home runs from the middle of the order guys.
Carter, I really want to ask our buddies who used to text us after every Blue Jays loss and whatever all season long last year, and see how they're feeling now. Maybe I'll have to do that over the weekend. And
no, I already got the update on one of them. Is he's still not very optimistic whatsoever. He's saying that there's a lot of frauds on this team, but I mean, this team could be 50-20, and there might still be some issues. So
yeah, okay. Well, hey, great episode. I can't wait for this series. It's going to be a fun weekend, Easter weekend. I got some time off. It's NHL playoffs are getting underway, so it's going to be a ton of fun. This is a great time for sports as well. So, Carter, My man, anything else before we kick out of here for today and wish everybody a great Easter weekend?
No, I guess just don't get overexcited about the Toronto Blue Jays. Don't have these unrealistic expectations. Things are going really well right now. And obviously, it's very easy to get excited about this team. You should be excited about this baseball club. But
Thanks,
there
man.
still is a lot of season ahead. There still is a lot of games to be played, a lot of baseball to be played. A lot of things can happen. So be excited that it's going well right now. But don't get too egotistical and don't say, hey, the Toronto Blue Jays are going to win 120 games. They're going to be way better than the Dodgers. Just stay grounded a little bit when things are going well. If we get to the midseason point, the Toronto Blue Jays are an absolute wagon. For sure, get on board. We're going to be right on there as well. But we went through the bad times last season. We definitely deserve it now. Thank you guys for watching. Likes, comments, subscriptions. All the support recently has been much appreciated. We are still hammering out the shorts and live streams when they do come out. If anything important happens, we'll probably go live for a game in the future again as well. So be on standby for that. But no, I'm just excited to get into the weekend. Excited to have some Easter dinners, eat like an absolute pig. I hope you guys are doing that as well. So thank you guys for watching. And looks like you got one more thing to say.
I got one more thing to say. Listen, I've been wanting to do this for the last 2 years, so we're going to do it at some point this year. Me and Carter are going to do the 9 dogs challenge one of these days. So let us
me
know.
Up for that, eh?
Yeah, I already signed you up. I didn't even ask you. So we're going to do that on the live stream with you guys. We'll answer questions. We'll have a good time. We're just gonna one of those like watch party games. So we'll do that eventually as well. Hopefully you guys are pumped about that. We'll bring it up. We'll find a day eventually that we can do it. But like Carter said, thanks a bunch for watching, subscribing, commenting. Love it. And have a great weekend. Eat some food like we're going to do.